Cost reduction is on every executive agenda right now, but most executives start with the same mistake. They start with headcount reduction, while in fact the problem lies deeper than that, in inefficient processes and in cost levers that are different than the workforce. So, of course, we should start with troubleshooting first. And the good news is we can use AI as a viable tool in doing that. I will show you how to do it step by step. First, by diagnosing the P&L of a given company, then determining the North Star, and then bridging this gap between where we are now and where we want to be in the future. So let's start the process. So first I want to give you a context. We have Vestara Group, which is imaginary retail company whose performance is deteriorating over time. We see revenues rising, but cost of goods rising even more. So we have gross profit under pressure. We see retail outlets and logistic costs rising, headquarters personnel costs increasing as well, which causes total operating expenses that are on the rise. This causes EBIT margin to be dwindling over the past 3 years. So I'm turning to Claude in order to ask it to be restructuring advisor. And based on the enclosed profit and loss statement, I'm asking it to conduct a analysis. First, to diagnose where the profitability problem lies, and then to identify cost levers and give hypotheses about the root of the problem. I'm asking it to structure the outcome in a clear way with numbers underpinning the hypothesis. I see it thinking for about 5 minutes and producing a nice and visual outcome. Net profit margin is 12%, down from 26%, EBITDA margin 19%, down from 31%, and revenues rising. Here we see that gross profit margin is under pressure, deteriorating, so are EBITDA margin and net profit margin, which is clear. Here we have a nice visualization that we see. We see all cost categories rising 2025 compared to 2023. And here is a really great visualization which shows the dynamics of particular cost levers, with finance costs on the rise, cost of goods sold, and revenue rising, but less so. So this explains why the total profitability is under pressure. So we see the conclusion that the root cause is not a revenue problem, it's a structural problem. Every cost category is rising. Production costs are the main to blame because they're structurally decoupled from revenue. Also, retail and logistics network costs are particularly on the rise. So are headquarter personnel costs. So we see a hypothesis that the structure is built for 10% revenue growth, but the revenues do not follow this trend. So despite revenue growth, costs are accelerating even more. Now I'm asking Claude that my target, my North Star, is to return to 27% profit margin and 30% EBITDA margin in 3 years. And I'm asking it to outline 10 key initiatives that will help me achieve this goal without client attrition and without the dissatisfaction of business partners and employees. So most executives would start to freeze employment or start to reduce workforce. So let's find what Claude will tell us. So we see the goals and we see a really nice outline of cost reduction initiatives. So first they start with strategic supplier renegotiation and dual sourcing, which would make an impact on our cost of goods sold. We see its contribution to our goal, which is great. And we see the following initiatives like logistic network redesign, headquarters span of control restructuring, but only on the 5th place, not the 1st place. and also not now. And also we see debt refinancing, interest reduction. Green initiatives are connected to costs. Blue ones are connected to revenues. So it advises us to introduce a price increase. And here are other suggestions. Here, it's something which I like most. Here we have a bridge which shows how particular initiative contribute to our final goal. So where we are now and where we will be in the future. This is something I like very much. We see the implementation phasing here. So what has to be done as a part of particular initiative over time, over the 3 years. And the recovery thesis, and we see the initiatives outlined in more detail. So all in all, we see that this is quite a McKinsey-style analysis. Now I'm asking it to allocate initiatives to particular roles and to draw an implementation roadmap, and also to add to say the success factors that I would be able to add to remuneration goals of my staff. I see it outline it very well. Each initiative is allocated to particular personas, and also it outlined the success factors for particular years, and also the weights that I could give in the remuneration scheme to each of the executive board members. So you must say this is very well explained, this is very well visualized, and it would be definitely a great help. I've also asked it to create a dashboard. So it's an exemplary dashboard report, progress report that could be submitted every month with the progress, with the contribution of each initiative. So this is absolutely amazing how it visualizes it, and it's really something of great help. But maybe you're saying, hey, we don't have Claude in our organization. How will Copilot do with the same task? So I'm saying, okay, let's see whether it will solve the same problems. I'm turning to Copilot. I'm going to GPT 5.4 Think Deeper model, and I'm giving it the same task. After thinking for about 10 minutes, it produced, thanks to the Pandas framework, some detailed analysis of the file that I uploaded, the Excel file. And after these minutes, we see the result. The profitability problem is not a revenue problem. This is correct. This is, in plain terms, the business is still selling more, but every extra euro of revenue is being absorbed by a cost base. So it's unable to pass inflation through to customers quickly enough. And I'm asking it, okay, so giving my North Star, let's think how to get to this point. So what's very interesting here is Copilot indicates a mathematical problem. So you cannot go to EBIT 30% and 27% net margin, because we have the financial costs and the depreciation on almost the same level. So either you get higher EBITDA or you get a lower net margin. So this is something that Claude did not come up with. And now it outlines the 10 initiatives. First, to start with the price increase, then with the changing the assortment and going away from low margin tail SKUs, and also to renegotiate with raw material suppliers. So as you can see, Copilot focuses more on the revenue initiatives rather than on cost initiatives, I would say. And what is great, it also highlighted these mathematical problems with the targets that I indicated. So I see that the analysis is very rigorous. I would say it's CFO style. So depending on what you want, you can either choose Claude's McKinsey-style analysis and output with impressive visuals, impressive dashboards, or here Copilot with the GPT 5.4 thinking with a more rigorous, more CFO style presentation. So depending on what you want, you can go to this or another model. So as you have seen, AI did surprisingly well in terms of diagnosing and troubleshooting the problem. That's great. But at the end of the day, it's up to the process and how it's conducted that we'll be talking about the success or a failure of a restructuring process. It's up to the leaders not only to own the decision, but also to conduct the process without attrition of clients, without the satisfaction and disengagement of employees and business partners. So it's still the responsibility of leaders not only to own the decision, but also to conduct the process successfully and with full engagement of stakeholders.